The art reflection is this week. The art reflection is due this week.
Wait, what?
As far as I know, I looked at it this is the second to last week, it'll be due this week.
Yep.
It's due
May
1st. No, this week, May 1st. The end of this week.
The end of this week, yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought it was today. And I was
Right now, I was like, this is a peer review.
Well, there is a peer review, but we may or may not get to that because I want to make sure we get everything we need to do on the recording first, get through a thing on flashcards, and then our Jeopardy, and then we'll turn the camera off to do peer reviews if we have any time left. Alright, so everyone listen up. We're going to do a video on flashcards. This is a really good one on how to take good flashcards for college classes. It can be really helpful, especially if you have a cram course like geography or history where you've got a lot of information that you need to know. This allows you to pinpoint it and memorize the stuff that's specifically going to be on tests and quizzes. So we're going to watch this first, and then we'll go ahead and move on to our Jeopardy.
This is a flashcard. More specifically, it's a bad flashcard. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why, because today we are talking about how to make effective flashcards and how to study them more efficiently. Now, flashcards are an incredibly powerful learning tool because they promote active recall, the process of actively retrieving memories out of your brain, which is one of the most efficient learning strategies there are. But flashcards are tools made by human beings, and as you probably know, things made by humans come in varying degrees of quality. For example, my girlfriend's art versus my art. However, when we go into the making of a thing with the best practices in mind, we can come out with a better product. And in today's video, I'm going to give you 8 specific rules for both making better flashcards and for studying them more effectively. Now, for the purposes of this video, I figured I would need some flashcards of my own to use as examples, so I've gone ahead and issued myself a challenge, and that is to learn and memorize the entire periodic table of elements because, believe it or not, I actually never took chemistry in high school. I had a really busy schedule with other classes at the time and just never got to it, so I've gone ahead and started making some flashcards, which I will be using in the course of this challenge, and we're going to use these to demonstrate the elements of good flashcards. But first, we have to start with a more general tip, which is to simply make your own flashcards. I know a lot of people like to share their flashcards with their friends, and for people who study flashcards on computers or in apps, there are entire online communities where you can upload and download pre-made decks, and I think these have their uses in certain cases, but in most cases, it's going to be much more effective for you to make your own flashcards. One of the most integral and important parts of learning is the process of intaking information and really wrangling with it on your own, creating your own words and your own forms out of that information. It's going to build really strong neural pathways, and those are going to be unique from the neural pathways of somebody else. And if you just take pre-made cards made by somebody else that you didn't have to do any work to create, you're denying yourself that entire part of the learning process. So now that you know the importance of making your cards yourself, let's get into the actual nitty-gritty of what makes a card good. And the first tip I've got for you is to add pictures to your cards and mix them up with words. Now, in cognitive psychology, there's a principle called the picture superiority effect, which describes how people remember images and pictures much better than they do words. And from an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. Written language is just a system of arbitrary symbols that people made up, and when we look at things on a grand scale, it really hasn't been around for all that long. Plus, our brains are adapted to be very sensitive to imagery. The locations of food, the animals that'll think you're food, the animals that won't think you're food but will still completely mess you up, etc. By adding pictures to your flashcards, you can make them a lot more memorable. And personally, I like to do this by drawing on my flashcards, but you can also just print out pictures from the internet and glue them on, or if you're using an app or a computerized flashcard program, a lot of them will allow you to easily import pictures. But you can take this one step further by making sure those pictures are next to words. In 1985, there was a study done in Canada that showed that descriptive sentences added next to pictures made those pictures much easier for people to recall. Now, if you take a look at my chemistry flashcards here, you might think they look a little bit weird, but that's actually on purpose because they're demonstrating the third tip I've got for you, which is to use mnemonic devices on your flashcards. Now, a mnemonic device is really anything that helps you create associations between pieces of information in your mind. The classic one is the acronym ROY-G-BIV, which helps you remember the order of the colors in the visible light spectrum, but it can really be anything, and I'm using associative imagery on my flashcards. For example, my flashcard for magnesium has a magnemite asking for more goulash, which is a completely ridiculous picture, but it helps me remember the association between Mg and magnesium, because magnemite sounds like magnesium, and more goulash is a good way to remember Mg. Now, the more weird and crazy and wacky these pictures are, the more easily you're going to remember them. And remember, you're making your flashcards for yourself, so it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of them or whether or not those associations would work for someone else. It's just for you. So the next 2 tips I've got for you guys really go hand in hand. hand. And the first one is to have only one question or fact on each one of your flashcards. Now, doing this is going to help you avoid what are called illusions of competence. Basically, our brains can really easily confuse recognition with recall. When you recognize something, you're basically affirming to yourself that, yes, I've seen this or I've been exposed to it before. But recall is different. Recall is actively retrieving something out of memory without, again, being exposed to it. And our brains can really confuse these things if we're not careful. So here's an example. Say you're taking a history of flight class, because obviously airplanes are awesome, and now you're studying for a test where you need to know some information about the first airplane, the Wright flyer. So you make yourself a flashcard, you put the first airplane in the front, but then on the back you put several different facts. And here's where you can run into trouble, because later on when you're studying and you see first airplane, you might remember that it flew in 1903, you might remember that it was called the Wright flyer, and you might even remember that it flew 4 times. But maybe you forgot that you used a sprocket chain drive to drive the propellers. And then you turn it over and you say to yourself, oh yeah, I do remember that. And then you put it aside. So by making 4 individual cards for each of these facts, you're guaranteeing that you're getting each one either right or wrong, and that's going to help you to study the ones you got wrong more efficiently and avoid those illusions of competence. Now, on a related note, we have the 5th tip here, which is to break complex concepts or questions down into simpler questions. And you can run into a lot of situations like this one, where say you're trying to learn the different groupings of elements on the periodic table. And there's lots of them. There's the alkali metals, the transition metals, there's the noble gases. So maybe you go and make a flashcard like this, where all these groupings are different color, and you have to name all of them. Well, once again, this is a bad flashcard, because maybe you know some of those groupings, maybe you know all but one, but that one grouping you didn't know, there's going to be an illusion of competence, and you're going to think that you knew it just by looking at the listing on the back. So instead, make flashcards like this that only highlight one of those groupings, and make sure that you know it before putting that flashcard aside. So now that you guys know some of the best practices for making your flashcards, it's now time to move over to how to study them. I've got 3 really important tips in this section of the video for you guys, starting with the first one, which is to say your answers out loud when you're studying your flashcards. And this is kind of just a way to mentally commit to your answer before you actually look at the back of the card, which helps you, again, avoid those illusions of competence. It helps you make sure you're not recognizing the answer and mistaking that recognition for recall. Make sure you actually know the answer. Now, the second tip here is to make sure you study your cards from both sides. And this is a way of creating neural pathways in your brain that work in both directions, so that way if you're asked either side of a question, you'll be able to trace that neural pathway back to the answer. For example, if you only studied the chemical symbol Be and you knew that it stood for beryllium, but then you were later on asked what's the chemical symbol for beryllium, you might not be able to get back to Be if you didn't study the cards in both directions, so make sure you do. And lastly, guys, my final tip for you here is to realize that flashcards are not a silver bullet. They're just one method of reviewing material, and they are situational. They're just like, say, a bow and arrow, right? You wouldn't use a bow and arrow in every single situation. You wouldn't use it up close, no matter how good of a Hanzo player you think you are. And flashcards are the exact same way. You have to know the right situations to use them in. A lot of information ties into an overall visual hierarchy or an organization, and with flashcards you kind of lose that. For instance, the periodic table is a really, really powerful visual tool. And if you were to say, try to memorize all the atomic numbers, the elements with flashcards, you'd really be doing your brain a disservice, because learning the periodic table and all the visual representations and relationships is much more effective. Also, make sure that you're learning before you're reviewing, because flashcards often aren't the best tool for teaching you the underlying concepts, which may help you learn facts much more efficiently. So those are my 8 tips for improving the way that you make and study flashcards. And right now you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Tom skipped something. And yes, I did, because there is one additional incredibly effective technique for learning and studying that goes hand in hand with flashcards, and that is spaced repetition. But that's such a complex topic, and I really want to dig deep into it, teach you guys the science behind it, and how to use it effectively both on paper and with apps, so that is going to be the subject of next week's video. Until then, guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you've got additional tips...
So, bottom line of this is, if you are not into doing flashcards, you don't have to, obviously, but this can be a very, very effective tool for memorization. So, yes, CC.
Okay, for your essay, do you have to use the outline?
Sorry, what?
Sorry, because it reminds me of when we're doing our essays for art revision. Do we have to do an outline?
Not for the art reflection.
Okay.
No. As long as you're answering questions A through D, which I think there's 4 of them, and you're including that, and you're doing MLA and all that, I'm not really too worried about the art reflection. The main thing is just make sure that you do have, you know, if it's MLA format, everything looks neat. Don't treat it too casually. So So you can use some first person, but honestly, just a heads up, I prefer if y'all stay away from the first person as much as possible. It just looks neater, it looks more professional. If I see a lot of I, you know, throughout it, it's going to look pretty tacky. So, other than that,
we're not allowed to use I, correct?
no, you are, but just try to space it out. Like first person is basically I or me. That's first person. You are allowed to use it, but try to space it out more. Try to use a lot of third person. You know, incorporate third person into it. If every sentence begins with I, it looks very tacky and repetitive.
I use all third person.
That's great. If you want to use all third person, I encourage it. It'll probably look better on your score overall. So, alright. So this time around, we're gonna split up teams a bit. You know what? I think we're gonna do teams of 2. So, because everyone's, we got pairs today. So, Andy and Gavin, I'll tell you what, if you guys don't mind moving up here, we're gonna do teams of 2, layer them like this. So, we'll start with the, we'll do team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, team 5, and the back will be the easiest way to remember. So, here's your views. I'm sorry. Oh, computers. I'm sorry. I think you were saying peers. My brain's computers. Yes. If you have your laptops.
When we start our computer, the only one we have is dead. And you have to.
Do you not have one?
It's
dead.
What kind of charger plug does it take?
The round one.
circular
Is it here for me?
It's a round one. It's a round
Does it look like that?
You ladies have a computer?
Either way.
Take it for now, and I'll probably need it later.
So like I put the names where I got to know like the background charge. My computer is just
They're not like another competitive ad is always faster than it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not wasting time considering
Cece, would you mind if these ladies borrowed your laptop for the session? That way everyone's got at least one. And then Andy or Gavin, would you mind if one of your let them borrow their laptop? Do you have your own? Doesn't work? Yeah, thanks. Do you show them just let them borrow? Just that way everyone's got any laptop or electronic device.
Good.
Gentlemen, you got your laptop?
I have a laptop.
Okay, go and open it up.
It's I have a low battery, so I'm just gonna save it for the second one, which I do not know as well.
Okay. Alright.
Hey, Gavin.
That's cool. We get this. Why is the icon?
Alright, so the way I'm going to do it mentally is team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, and team 5. I'm going to count it back like this.
Can you give me one? No, that's wrong. Stop.
I'll give you all about a minute to everyone to get to chapter 9. So we're going to do chapters 9 and 10, and then finally next week will be the final exam review.
So this is both chapter 9
and 10. This one is just chapter 9, and then the next one will be chapter 10. And I'll do my best to see everybody as far as hand raising. It's going to be kind of difficult, but we'll try to get it. This is going to sound super crazy. Ladies in the back, would y'all mind moving a little bit this way? Yeah, just it would help. Just trying to make sure I can get everyone in my Alright. Is everyone ready to go with chapter 9?
Yes.
Y'all are, you are. You guys ready to go with chapter 9? McKenna? You all good? Okay. Ladies in the back, you're good? Alright, let's do it. So, I don't remember who won last week.
We did.
Yeah, they did.
We did.
Okay.
That was team 3, remember?
That's right, So it really is between y'all. So I think it's only fair if the guys in the middle go first because they lost. They need So this will be, let's see, team 1, team 2, team 3. So y'all were team 4. So team 4, you gotta go first.
What do you want to do? Okay, government. 300.
Right in the middle? Alright. An area of political instability that is caught between the interests of competing states. Yes, in the front. That was very close. That was very close. It was them. So what? So what? Okay. So Shatterbell. Very good. That's team 3. Okay. Alright, team 3, your pick. That was close.
It's a disaster. 300.
Okay. It's a disaster. 300. The creative name for the area of high tectonic tectonic activity along the Pacific Ocean where 90% of the world's earthquakes occur, which includes East and Southeast Asia? I'm going to give it to them because you raised your hand before the question. So yes.
Ring of fire.
So what?
Ring of fire.
Ring of fire. Very good, team 1. Or team 2, excuse me. Johnny Cash wrote a song about that, so probably not about that exactly, but yeah. Alright, team 2, here we go. Sorry, am I in the way?
Population and religion 300.
Alrighty, even across the board. China's migrants are part of a floating population where they work in an area but don't live there permanently. These two countries that have experienced a large group of Chinese floating population. So these two countries have experienced a large group of Chinese floating population. Also, I realized they're spelled incorrectly. It should be T-H-E-R-E.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I got it.
Alright?
That's Singapore and Thailand.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Singapore and
I
Thailand.
think like, how do you pronounce it again?
I should get Singapore. I
Alright.
watched a video about this.
Alright, team 3, here we go.
Okay, let's go bit.
Wait a minute.
So what?
Geographical feature 500.
Wait, sorry, go ahead.
Did team 3 get? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because this is team 3. Or team 3, team 3.
Geographical features 500.
Did I miss something, or I might have?
I was confused. I thought that they got Franklin and Caleb got the first round.
No, because they gave it to them. They were that close. It was that close. They got the first call. So, all right. Well, I'm sorry. Team 3, go ahead.
Geographical features 500.
All right. A major river for irrigation that begins in China. In the back.
The Yangtze.
Yangtze. The Mekong. Sorry, team 5. Wow. Yep. Alrighty. Let's see. Mix it up a little bit. Team 1, we'll let y'all have a pick.
Economics and development 500.
Okay. All right. The 4 Asian tigers countries known for their economic growth. So this is the 4 Asian tigers. Yes.
Alright, so Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan.
Man, you came prepared this time.
I don't even know how I'm doing it.
Alrighty, team 3.
Literally, you're allowed to, Franklin. It's salty.
Quick fingers.
Population and religion 500.
Okay. The world's 2 most populated regions. Yes.
Europe and South Asia.
Europe and South Asia.
It's literally the very
Southeast and
top
East
of
Asia. Yep. Southeast and
I
East
thought in other
Asia.
chapters it said Europe.
Europe and Asia in terms of like other overall regions, but in terms of within, we are within the Asia region. So within the Asia region.
It says
Yeah.
regions. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's better than I think.
Yeah, it was definitely team 3. Alright, let's mix it up again. Let's do team 5 actually hasn't had a chance to pick yet, so let's give them a chance.
Let's see what they're made of.
Yeah.
That's no good.
Population region 400.
Okay? More Muslims live in this country than in any country on earth.
Malaysia.
What's that,
I'm sorry. This is my alarm for my meds.
I don't want to take it.
I did take it actually before. Shoot. It's in. I think it's in Malaysia or Indonesia.
So what?
Malaysia and Indonesia.
Is it?
Which one?
Is there an option for? I think it says like both of them
Indonesia.
here. So I'll listen to
Indonesia. It says Indonesia. It is Indonesia. Alright.
There was other crazy on that one.
Team 3 seems to be running away with this one, so I think it's only fair we mix up teams next time. Let's go ahead.
Larson, slow.
Team 3?
Oh, okay.
I want to take something easy, so I'm gonna say government. Government 200.
Government
That's
200.
it this time.
The primary indicator of China's isolationist tendencies during its dynasties. The primary indicator of, yes.
The wall. The Great Wall.
Okay. The Great Wall of China. Very good, team 4.
Nice.
Alrighty, team 4, here we go.
It's a disaster 200.
It's a disaster 200. The term for tropical cyclones in the northwestern region of the Pacific Ocean.
Tsunami?
Okay.
No.
It's not.
Yeah, it's typhoon.
I literally
Say that was the other
That
chapter.
down.
That's not.
That was the other chapter.
Yeah,
I remember that.
but the typhoon still stands on this one. So.
Must be in chapter.
Yeah.
Tsunami is a big wave.
Yeah, tsunami is a big wave. Typhoon is a big storm. So, alrighty, let's mix it up and go with team 1. Let's y'all pick.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, I just read that.
It's a disaster 400. After the tsunami of 2004, the international community decided to create a tsunami warning system for this ocean to prevent casualties. Yes?
India.
Okay.
No.
It is the Indian Ocean. Yep, good job. Yep. Alright, team 4, you're
Yeah, that
go.
was stupid. Here we go. Population and religion 200.
Alright, population and religion 200. The process of adopting mostly European and American culture values, which happened in Japan after World War II. Yes?
Westernization.
Westernization.
Which is the
Good job, Team 2. Team 2's catching up here. Alright, Team 2, your go.
Geographical features 300.
Okay, geographical 300.
Yes.
The river that generates approximately 1/5 of China's gross domestic product. You guys.
Yangtze.
Okay.
How do you pronounce that?
The Yangtze River. Good job, Team 1. Yeah, you raised your hand before the question was asked. So.
I found it, but I just.
Alright, Team 1, your go.
No problem.
Oh. Economics and development 300.
Right? This was supposed to speed up China's economy to become an industrial superpower, but instead led to widespread famine. Yes?
The Great Leap Forward.
Okay. Very good. Alright, Team 3.
Okay. Government 400.
Right.
It's quiet today.
China became a unified state under this dynasty, which ruled from 206 BCE to 220 CE, and this long period of stability is viewed as a golden age in Chinese history.
Han Dynasty.
Okay? The Han.
Yeah.
Very good.
Just moved
I saw someone raising their hand back there, but it was a little too slow. So it was close. Alright, Team 1, here we go.
Government 500.
Okay, government 500. The killing fields of Cambodia occurred during a communist takeover by this dominant ethnic group. Yes?
The Rogue.
Huh?
The Rogue or Rogue.
I'll give it to you. The Khmer Rouge.
Oh, I can't pronounce that right. It's like that. Hey, come on, team. We're team 4.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, Team 2. I wanted to give you all those points.
You wouldn't take
Wait,
it.
we don't.
I know. Next time. Alright, Team 4.
It's a disaster 500.
Alright, big 500 points. Here we go. The eruption of this volcano is known for being the loudest sound in modern history and can be heard over 3,000 miles away. Yes?
Krakatoa. I know this one. I read a book about this like way back when I was young.
Yeah.
Which one of them is?
Do what?
Which one of them is? It's the. It has to do with that.
Ah. Alright, Team 3, here you go.
Economics and Development 400.
Economics and Development 400. Also called the New Stone Age, this was a time of key development in early human technology in China, such as farming, the domestication of plants and animals, and the use of pottery.
Oh.
Neolithic period, something like that?
Neolithic, very good.
I literally found
I
that.
raised my hand.
Neolithic meaning New Stone Age. Yep.
I thought it
So
was
new and lithic.
That's a
So.
lie.
Alright. Team 2, to go.
Sure. Geographical features 400.
Alright.
Two basic ones.
The largest religious structure in the world that started off as a Hindu shrine but later transformed into a Buddhist temple. Yes, Team 1. Or Team 2, 2.
Angkor Wat.
Angkor Wat. Very good. Alrighty. Alrighty, it is Team 2's go. The war in East Asia, which is said to have never have actually ended, excuse me. Yes?
Korean War.
Okay. Very good. It's also known as the Forgotten War. Alright, team 4. So what?
Can I go connect the internet really quick?
Sir?
Can I go connect the internet really quick? So,
Wait for the break in between games because we're almost done with this one. So team 4.
Geographical features 200.
Okay. The most powerful earthquake to ever hit Japan, a magnitude 9.0, which resulted in tsunami waves over 40 meters high in some areas, hit Japan this year. Yes.
2011. This has to be the year, right?
It's 2011. Yeah.
Already done.
All right, team 3.
Geographical features 100.
Okay.
This is a lot of questions.
The landform that separates China from South Asia, which also is the cause for the Gobi Desert.
Himalayan.
Let's see. The Himalayan Mountains. Very good. Man, for not using your laptop, y'all done pretty good this round. All right, team 4.
It's Disaster 100.
It's a Disaster 100. Japan's highest mountain peak, which is also an active volcano that last erupted in the early 18th century. Yes.
Not Fiji.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Sounds like this.
This was in the Pacific.
All right. Team 1. Here we go.
Government 100.
Government 100. After World War II, China became a communist country under the leadership of this man. Yes.
Mao Zedong.
Maybe that was right on that.
Mao Zedong.
Mao Zedong. Good. All right, team 5. Here we go. I'll let you pick one of the last two.
just pick one.
Population and religion.
All right. This religion originated in China with an emphasis on moral character and relationships, on family, and the society of which the people lived. Yes?
Confucianism.
Confucianism.
Yeah.
Confucianism.
It's confusing.
It is confusing. As Confucius said it, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, economics and development. The poorest country in Southeast Asia. Yes?
North Korea.
Okay. Tis North Korea, despite their objections.
Okay.
All right, very good. So Team 2 did really well. Team 3 got the win for that one. All right, you need to go get internet real quick, so.
Oh, my laptop.
411.
So we'll get to this in a minute. We'll take a quick break. See if you can get her internet.
Oh, I should connect to the average iPhone.
Hey, no.
I know your password. It's infinite password.
So while we're waiting for Cece, any questions on the art reflection?
Due this Saturday, correct?
I believe so. Saturday or Sunday.
Then
It's
I
21st.
need to get onto that.
Should.
Your reflection, is that your Sunday?
Yeah, it's due to the end of this week, so.
I'm getting it next week. Sunday's.
It's the weekend. Next week. We got next week to meet.
So technically,
You just have to search, you won't, like, search that specific.
Did you get it?
Yes.
Alright.
Dang it. Because I've seen them.
Alright, so open up to chapter 10. If you are ready to go. Alright, so the teams are ready to go. Give me a thumbs up.
I guess we're ready.
Okay, not yet. One team.
Sure, well, I accept
Hey,
that.
now it's a
What the? I don't have internet. Hold on, give me a second. Wiley, did you turn off your Dropbox?
Yes, were you using it?
Yes!
No wonder my battery died so quickly. Dang! I was wondering, like, my phone's at hell and
I just made
said
it on our hotspot. Does this work? If it does, it's a horrible airway. No way!
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
'Cause I like that.
Hold up. I gotta make sure this actually works.
alright, we're good.
Well, I have to.
Those that work like it's mine, first of all. That's one big problem with it.
That look you gave her was like, that's not good. I know what's wrong with this one.
Okay,
We're not gonna be a good grade.
It's a PDF file, and whenever you use a PDF file versus the internet, the
It's
PDF file is
No, that's the internet.
slow.
That's the internet.
Yeah.
That's the internet.
That's just the internet. Alright. Okay, here we go. We are getting started if you're ready or not. Alright, here we go. So, team 3, since you won that last team, or that last game, you get to pick.
Well, my
Just pick. Too bad.
100.
Grab that one.
All along 100. Here we go. Here we go. There is no human settlement in this continent.
Antarctica.
Kind of an obvious one.
I got lucky with that one. I didn't show you the working one.
Alright, team 3.
Can someone else choose? I'm trying to figure out how to make
Okay,
it.
Alright, grab back 100.
Grab bag 100. The term for Australia's vast interior. In the bag, was that team?
The Outback.
The Outback.
Learn something.
Was it, Larry the Cable Guy lovingly called it the outhouse steak bag?
There's a kitchen guy, both.
Alright, team 5.
Territory and population 3.
Territory and population 300. Okay. Hawaii is an island that is part of the grouping of islands in the Pacific. This.
Hi, Islands.
Sorry?
Wait a minute. It is part of
She's getting it.
Polynesia.
Okay.
Dang it.
Good job. Alright, team 2, here we go.
Territory and population 200.
Okay, territory and population 200. A 200-mile zone extending out from a country's coastline within which a country has exclusive control over any natural resource discovered. Yeah, CC.
Exclusive economic zone.
Yeah. Exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. Good job. Alright, team 5.
No. Australia 400.
So what?
Australia 400.
Australia 400. Australia is known for its marsupials, but it also has some of the deadliest creatures. In particular, it has more of these deadly creatures than any other country in the world. I'm going to give it to the middle.
Dang it.
That's close. Okay?
Oh.
Yep, very good.
But I realized it was.
That was close because it was literally the same time, and I was like, I'm going to give it to Ziggy. Alright. Okay, team 4, go ahead.
Grab back 200.
Okay, grab bag 200. Islands formed from coral. Yes.
Little Islands.
I totally missed that.
Low islands, very good. Team 1, feel free to start playing whenever you want. Team 2.
Kind of started to be last week.
Well, that's true. Yeah, alright.
Come on, more time than that.
Sure.
So what?
Resources and environment 300.
Alright, resource and environment 300. Here we go. 5 countries have overlapping EEZs in the Arctic, which wasn't a problem until this was discovered underneath Arctic waters.
Oil.
Oil and natural gas, I'll give it to you. Yep. Isn't that always the case? Isn't that always the case? People are uninterested in other countries and all of a sudden it says, yeah, but they go over there. Oh, really?
Have you seen the meme of fish have oil in the US?
Yeah. Alright, team 4.
All alone 400.
Okay, all alone 400. The term for when a country is isolated and far away from other countries and the economy is based on exports, which obviously must be shipped, adding to its costs. I'm going to give this one, team 1.
Isolated? No, wait, no, that's not the question. Never mind.
Okay.
Import substitution industries.
Alrighty. Tyranny distance. Not quite. Sorry, team 5. Y'all are still in though. There's a lot of information here.
Thanks, we're no longer in last place.
We're in third.
Alright, let's mix it up. And you know, team 3 hasn't had a chance to pick in a while, so.
And we just got it working, so great. Grab back 400.
Grab back 400. The collective ethnic culture identity of the natives of New Zealand. Yes, CC.
Australia? No, never mind.
Okay. Question still in the air. Yes.
The Maori? The Maori?
No. Yes, sorry. I was about to say the Aborigines, but no, you were right.
Hey, we're team 3.
Alrighty, team 3.
Grab back up, shoot.
Okay, grab that one, what, 400 for 300?
500.
500? I was like, 3 no 400. An episode of this children's TV show was banned because in Australia because it featured a friendly spider, which viewers feared would send the wrong message to children. CC. So what?
Peppa Pig.
Yep, Peppa Pig.
Yes, wow.
I support
7-foot giant.
Spiders are freaky.
Spiders are pretty.
I think even then, like, I saw shows with friendly spiders and I never wanted to affect one. It was just like, you know, I'm good. So, alright, team 5, here goes.
Are you not getting
All alone
it?
500.
All alone, 500. Building a home is a violation of the guidelines set regarding this classification of land. Yes, team 4.
Never mind.
Alright? Yes, team 2.
Aboriginal?
Dang it, it was right there, dude.
Good job. Aboriginal land.
I was like, no. I thought
Alright, team 2, here we go.
No.
It's alright. If anything, you can move this.
Team 100.
Australia 300. Australia was a prison colony of this European country. Wow, both of you. Okay. Good job.
I need that.
That was like perfect. When you see both, you're like, boom. I was like, saw that. Alright, team 5.
We good.
Territory and population 500.
Alright, territory and population 500. The region of Oceania that has been established as a peaceful scientific frontier and prohibits mining and military activity. CC.
Antarctica? I'm at well, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's in
I
our.
was in Australia.
I feel like you'll lucked into that, but it's still
I found it, but I always get confused with Antarctica and Australia. And I was like, did I mean
You
Australia?
mean the Arctic and Antarctica? Because there's the Arctic and the Antarctica. Yeah. Australia or Australia's
all
just
three of
the
them.
continent. Yeah.
Australia's hot.
I-
Antarctica is
Yes,
freezing.
that's a good way to think of it.
Oh, did everybody start with A? That's my mind.
Just think of like Antarctica as Arctic, it's cold, and then think of Australia as it's hot. Alright, team 5.
Resources and environment 500.
The
Okay.
answer is always oil.
This country is the global leader in coal and has the second largest diamond mine in the world. Team 2.
Australia?
Let's see.
Yeah.
It is! Australia, very good.
The answer's always oil.
Nothing.
Alrighty, team 2, your go.
5.
Come on!
Lord, yeah, that's not that hard.
The resources and environment 400.
Alright, resources and environment 400. The huge area in the Pacific Ocean where there is a high concentration of trash and plastics because of how the ocean currents rotate.
Oh, I watched a video about this.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It was on Daily Dose of Internet.
Yeah. Yes, CC.
Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
Yeah, that's it.
Here it is, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
I watched a video about Daily Dose of Internet.
And it's so gross to see, like, literally just ocean, literally an ocean of just waste. It's like, oh.
It's just
Yeah, the Andes is really gross. Either one. Team 5, here we go.
Territory and population 400.
Alright, territory population 400. Countries generally claim the ocean coastline 3 miles out as their property until this country announced their territory of the oceans extended all the way to the continental shelf. Yes, Gabby.
United States.
Okay, sorry. Andy. Yeah, the United States. Because America. Basically what happened is everyone was like, yes, we agree to this certain mileage of shoreline. They were like, we're going to do things bigger.
That's America for you.
Yeah. Alright, team 3.
500. Australia 500.
The term for mammals that lay eggs rather than give birth to live young, which are only found in isolated regions, New Guinea and Australia. Yes, team 1. You raised it before the question. Sorry. So, okay. Wait, what?
Monitoring.
Okay. Monitoring is very good.
I said creepy, does that count?
Team 1, here we go.
I mean, are there really more mammals that lay eggs that are not platypuses? Platypi?
Very.
So what? Grab back 300. Ring-shaped chains of coral islands surrounding a central lagoon. Yes.
Atoll.
That was very close. Atoll.
World War II.
And that's exactly, by the way, that is exactly why the British never went there, because they said, we're not doing that atoll.
Oh, no.
Team 5.
All of those 300.
So what?
All of those 300.
Okay, all those 300. The islands of this group tend to have a smaller population because the sandy soil makes farming difficult. Fresh water is difficult to find, and the islands are susceptible to natural disasters. I'm giving it to this team 4, or team, whatever, team 4, yes. That's very close. What?
Low islands?
Micronesia. Yeah, sorry, team 4. Alrighty, let's mix it up. Team 5 hasn't picked in a while.
We just did.
That's right. Team 2 hasn't picked in a while.
Team 4.
Let's let team 2 Australia, 200. Okay, here we go. The most commonly used example of a mammal that lays eggs only found in Australia. Gosh, that was fast. You both were fast. This one was first. It was literally just like that. So go ahead.
Hey,
All right.
platypus.
Platypus. Which are supposedly poisonous.
They are.
They have like a, what is it on there?
How come Harry never killed Dr. Doofenshmirtz?
They're literally, to me, the weirdest animal on earth. They have a duck bill, like a mammal body, and poisonous toes. It's like, what?
I think that's
I feel like, huh? Yeah, I think God, like all the other animals, like, all right, these don't make sense. Yeah, I got 3 parts left. That's what it is now.
But Harry the platypus.
Alrighty. Team 1, here we go.
They're all of them.
So all of them 200? This region includes Australia, parts of the Pacific Islands, and the polar regions of the Arctic and Antarctica, which are all connected by their shared isolation. That was close, but I'm giving it to them.
Oceania.
So what?
Oceania.
Yep. Good job, Team 5. I think Team 5 might pull the win here.
Maybe.
It's close.
They will.
Booyah.
Yeah, I think they will, because I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they will. Team 5.
Team 5.
Resources and environment at 200.
Okay.
Team 5 won, I already.
The term for when coral stress and expel their colorful algae-like organisms leading to death. So the term for when coral stress and expel their colorful algae-like organisms leading to death.
A lot.
Ooh, that one's gonna go. Oh, team 1 or team 2.
Coral bleaching.
Okay.
That wasn't really anywhere.
Alrighty, team 2, here we go. Coral bleaching went out with the 90s, just letting you know that. It's a joke. Bleaching back in the late 90s and early 2000s, guys would like bleach their hair because it was like the boy band thing to do. So like coral bleaching went out with the 90s.
You get that joke.
My hair is not bleached, it's literally highlighted. Do y'all know the difference?
Not really. There's not much going on. It's just a new version of bleaching. Alrighty, the Aborigines of Australia were nearly wiped out by British colonization for this reason. Yes, Team 5.
Sea levels.
Okay, let's see. Smallpox and measles disease.
What have you done?
CC, we're destroying.
Alright, let's go with Australia 100. So Australia 100. One of the most well-known features of Australia. Yes.
The Outback.
The kangaroos.
The Great Barrier Reef. So I'm not going to take it away just because the Outback is a fair answer, but we were looking for the Great Barrier Reef on this one. So.
I still like kangaroos.
I don't care.
Alrighty, and then finally resource environment 100. Here we go. A volcanic crater that has eroded beneath the water. Yes,
Lagoon.
okay. A lagoon. Very good. Alrighty, that is everything. So Team 2 got that one. That was a close game. They were literally only 2
Team 1.
So Team 5, y'all pulled out the win. Good job.
Give me just.
Alright, that being said, with what time we have left, I think we still got 25 minutes. So, if you have you're sitting next to a partner, go ahead and exchange your art reflections for pure edits.
Which I don't have to